Hello, hello. This is Dmitry Senekov. Welcome back to Powerful Creator Podcast. In today's episode, I want to take you through a short, concise walkthrough of the blueprint that really I've been walked through over the past several years. When I got the first initial download of the process of the human behavior change transformation, and I thought I was able to help and teach it to others a few years ago. And yet it turns out that I wasn't in that position just yet. I needed to get the download first, and I needed to walk through it myself so that I could speak to it, not just from book learning, not from theoretical application, but from a practical experience with all of the ups and downs, barriers, obstacles that may get in the way. So let's jump into this conversation. First, why is this important and what is the benefit of this? So, why I've created the blueprint is because of my own challenges that I've been dealing with in my life, including, but not limited to, creating a beautiful family and a successful business in a way that supports our lifestyle, that allows the freedom of time and financial freedom of both not having to worry about anything, but also just really having the bills paid, including for any of the exciting opportunities that might get in the way, including travels and entertainment. So I've been trying to grow a business. I've been trying to found a business, tried different startups, and some of them went certain places, some of them got sold, but things were missing. And especially the internal experience of how life could be was not there just yet. And so I've studied a lot of different various systems of both biohacking, personal development, high performance, entrepreneurship, how to grow a business, how to develop business, the marketing, direct response marketing, how to influence people, how to lead both a team and others, and how to grow your business from a marketing standpoint, direct mail. Like I've run workshops about all of this, and yet something was missing on the inside. And also, every time that I would get to a certain level of acceptance, there would come a time when a certain point of self-sabotage would get triggered. And I had this, what I call a financial threshold, where I was deviating between like a maximum upper point, like a glass ceiling, and of course, the minimum point where as well, once I reached it, something turned inside of me that brought the finances in. And for me, that point was somewhere between plus or minus $50,000. So whenever my credit cards would go to negative 50, I would go and make money somehow, find a way to make money. Or if I wasn't doing any of it, they would just come my way. And then whenever I would get to positive 50, I would always find ways to invest them somewhere or allow them to move on their way to bring for me whatever next step I needed to bring. And over the time, of course, I've also heard of this. I could have probably paid off my house by now with all the investments I've done in the personal development space and spiritual mentorship and all of this. But I am right now happier than ever. I would never have changed my decisions for anything, because the internal transformation I was able to reach, to me, is priceless. It is not something that you can actually go out into the store and buy, but it is really going through that internal transformational process of understanding who you are, what life is, and how to function. And so that is my goal, both in today's episode and just maybe for the next little while, if not long term, to help you save a bit of time of trying a bunch of different systems that may just keep you looping in the same pattern that has been conditioned into you throughout your childhood. And so for me, the biggest challenge I had was I reached this level of acceptance that we are here to have this human experience, to have the suffering, to have the pain, just because this is part of the human life. And I thought, well, whatever, people and souls come here to experience all of this stuff. So who am I to stop them from having that? And then as I was going deeper into this work and having more conversations, I realized that there are a lot of people who actually want to make change happen, but there's something in the way. And the conversation kept showing up where it's like somebody would come up and they say, well, I want to start a business. I want to, start dating. I want to improve my relationship with my wife or my children. I want to be less angry. I want to be less depressed. I want to go after my dreams and goals. But, and then in this but, there comes all kinds of reasons. I don't want to call them excuses, all kinds of things that may get in the way. And that has been the case for myself as well, where various high performance coaches, especially in the high performance world, where I was left hanging and the coaches couldn't support me to move forward from the fear that I was feeling at the time. As in, I just found myself whenever I needed to make that big move to have a little extra, maybe risk, so to say, or more of risk of judgment or risk of actually becoming successful, something would turn inside of me to put and smash the car on the brakes, so to say. Like I would come to a halt. My nervous system would freeze. And kind of from the high performance coaching world, unfortunately, at least it has been my experience that there has been no way to assist a person when such freeze would occur. And kind of, I would get blamed, or I understand would be forwarded to my own responsibility to make the next step, but I was frozen and I couldn't. And I didn't know how to find the answers. And so this is kind of the main purpose of the blueprint is to help those who are finding themselves wanting, desiring, trying to create, manifest, follow, but there's something that is in the way. And those are usually some kind of fears that what if scenarios, uncertainties if this is going to work out, and all kinds of things that even they stop even the most powerful men that I've met. And that is the importance of this blueprint. That is what I think is here to serve, because there's a lot of people who are telling others how to do what to do, and yet people are not doing it. And most of the world is saying, well, it's people's responsibility for them to do it. And I'm here to say that one, yes, it is a responsibility, but two, the fears that you're feeling, the nervous system freezing points that you're experiencing are actually none of your doing. And they're here for a reason. And that they're not here to be fought through. They're not here to be disciplined through. They're not here to be accountable through. Because I've had many experiences where external accountability just simply didn't work because it's just something that either the nervous system wasn't ready for, or the fear was so strong that no matter what kind of accountability structure you put in place, things wouldn't be done, wouldn't move forward, progress wouldn't happen. So then what is happening? So I'm going to put up a training on the website. It'll be on powerfulcreator.com/blueprint, where I'm going to take you through the stuff that I'm going to share with you right now and add some visuals to it. So the model that I have is 4 quadrants, if you can imagine, 4 quadrants. And the first quadrant is really where most people get stuck. It is in the upper left. And this is what I call the achievement quadrant. This is where I feel some kind of pain or desire. It doesn't matter whether you're being driven to get away from something or whether you actually want to achieve something. This is the quadrant where You are the one who's supposed to make it happen with your action, and that things require certain strategy. And that if you follow that strategy and plan, then you will either get out of that situation or you will achieve the situation that you actually want to get to. And uh, I would say majority of manifestation type strategies and techniques actually fall into this quadrant as well, because kind of there is an upward arrow of trying to get away from something, from the pain. Even though you may be driven by the desire, you are being driven from a state of some kind of misunderstanding or a set of beliefs that may not be fully aligned with what's true and what is real. And so we try to achieve, do, grow, perform, and even manifest things in order to escape a certain negative feeling or in order to uh, achieve something. And yet, at this stage, even the achievement of it is really coming, if we look at it very honestly, is coming from a selfish need to be okay with who we are, to be seen as a useful individual to the society, that I am fulfilling some kind of purpose, that my life matters, right? Because if I don't do anything, then my life doesn't matter. And I'm not actually serving the whole in the society. And as a result, of course, that would feel like a sense of void or emptiness or really not enoughness. So in this quadrant one, where achievement and manifestation really most of the world is operating in right now, is what I would also call is actually playing the human game. That there's nothing wrong with it. We actually have come here to experience everything you have experienced up till this point. All of the limitation you have had, everything that you have wanted in your life, and everything you've chased so far was the thrill of the game. And yet, because you might be listening to this right now, chances are that you either haven't achieved the success or the results or the relationships or the happiness or the health that you wanted, and you're still trying to get it, or you have actually achieved it, and maybe you have achieved a bunch of different things in life, and yet something is missing. Like you've got the external, everything that you could ever wish for, and yet something is missing. And here come many, many examples of our wonderful celebrities, like Jim Carrey, like we've seen Eric Clapton's documentary where um, people who have amazing talents, they love what they do. They're playing the music, they're doing the acting, they're involved in their wonderful creative projects. They have all of the attention of the world, they have all of the external successes, and yet something is missing on the inside, and they're not happy with themselves. They're not able to receive the love that they're getting from the outside, and instead they actually want to escape from it. And so kind of you might be following these two camps. One is you're still looking to gain something that you think is outside there that will fulfill you. And two, you have actually achieved all of the stuff that you thought you wanted, and yet something else is missing. So this is the first quarter, right? And especially when it comes to manifestation, what also happens is if we try to manifest, right, that perfect partner, that perfect relationship, that perfect job, position, business, whatever, and then somehow, for whatever reason, it gets taken away from us. And then we end up with nothing again, right? So even though, yes, the manifestation technique worked, but we weren't able to hold on to it. Why does this happen? And why is there nothing wrong with that? Well, first of all, we can look at it as if we're playing a human game here. And an example could be like those dog races. I don't know if you've ever seen those, similar to horse races, but like the greyhound dog races where they chase after a mechanical bunny looking um, contraption that has its speed set to just be out of reach of the fastest dog that's running, right? And the whole point of the game is for the dog to be in the chase of that rabbit, of that mechanical rabbit. And these dogs, they live their lives constantly chasing and never catching, right? That is the entire point, in a way, of their existence, that they run after the rabbit, whatever is inside of their biological mechanism that is making them chase the rabbit, even though they never caught it or they never catch it. They don't even know what the heck that is. Even when they catch it, they'll probably, chew on some metal and they would be surprised to see what the heck that was. And yet they spend majority of their lives running after that thing like their life depends on it, with the entire intensity, right? And that is, in a way, creating the entertainment for us, the audience, to watch, and in a way bet on which dog is going to be faster, which one has more enthusiasm, which one has more strength to go after it. And the whole point is to watch the race, to experience the race. The point is not to catch. And this is the key point in this key one, as they call it, that we are actually inside the game, where the name of the game is the chase, is the process, is the experience, and it is not to get to the destination. We can go into various reasons why that happens that way, but this is kind of the design of the Q1 game, of the game of trying to achieve, because we are setting ourselves up in a way to create perfect set of circumstances, like you could possibly relate in your childhood, in order to get the programming and conditioning, in order to limit ourselves, limit our view of the world and selves into this limited box, from which then we get to see how the world operates. Right? Like in families where people are supposed to marry into other families in order to hold on to the family finances, right? They're born into financial abundance, and yet they're born into a very rigid cultural, societal, behavioral structure where there are only a certain rigid ways where you can move. You cannot choose to marry who you love. You cannot choose to have the activities you want to be involved in. There is a certain responsibility of a schedule, and there is, in a way, lack of freedom in that regard. Right? Or similarly, you may have been born into the most disastrous type of childhood experiences that anybody could even imagine. And that created your view of the world with its own view of limitation of how you think you are, where you think money is. Maybe you've been programmed that money is bad. Maybe you've been conditioned that instead, the only way to reach for success is through sheer hard work, and only your own sweat, blood, and tears can guarantee a success that you can actually enjoy. And so, as a result, you may not be enjoying the result and the fruit of your labors. Instead, you're always on the go. You're trying to reach for that thing while looking at life from inside this box that has been created around you. And in a way, not that it was created to mess with you, but your bigger self has actually limited itself into this small box in order to experience life with these particular set of rules and circumstance, just to see how it's going to be. And an example could be that, if we talk about all kinds of past lives and all experiences on the planet that are possible, maybe you've already lived the life of a rich prince or princess, right? With all of the luxuries in the world and all of the abundance and all of the delicious fruits. Or maybe you also lived the life of a beggar on the street, a homeless person who is happy beyond belief just because there is maybe some kind of roof over their head, that it is raining, that there is some kind of scraps of clothes on you, and you're simply enjoying that the sun is out. And that's the whole game of this Q1 play, that we get to experience life from a limited set of circumstances from within the box. And what I'm seeing right now is we're coming to a time when humanity is ready to now step outside this box that has been created for us in the early beginning, right? For the first few thousands of years, humanity has been playing from inside the box to experience what it is like to be the separate human self who is out watching for survival, who is constantly under threat of attack, of risk, of losing, of lack. And now we're waking up that there is a possibility to break out of the box during our lifetime. And this is what this entire powerful creator blueprint is, to help you first see, and two, to help you get through it, walk through it in an empowered state with specific steps that are going to be set up in your way and certain gateways that you need to courageously both step into and pass through. So what happens in Q1, right? Top left quarter, Q1, we are trying to achieve and we're trying to manifest and we're trying to play the game from a designed set of limitation. And that's how we used to play the game. And maybe this is, you might be relating that you might be done playing that game of limitation. You don't want to play that game anymore. You're done with the hardships of life. And maybe you want to start playing the game how it was now designed, how it could be designed going forward. And so how do we get to this life where you get to create life on your terms now, where you get to design the new rules, the new experiences that you want to have? And in a way, I'm calling this, so the Q4, right? It's like Q4 is the upper right quadrant. This is our new way that has become possible for humanity to experience life where there actually are no limitations. There is actually an entire abundance of all kinds of experiences that you can have on this planet, including both financial support and also time freedom, along with, of course, the internal peace and relaxation that many people who have the financial time freedom, that they're still dealing with that internal struggle. And so this Q4, what is possible there is complete expression and living from your highest excitement moment to moment. You wake up in the morning, you don't have a set schedule unless you want it to. There are no responsibilities unless you want to have them there. And the only responsibility you have to yourself is to enjoy your day, both in creating how the day is going to unfold and also experiencing the mystery and surprises that may get in the way. Because if you knew for certain, if you had the expectation of how the day was going to go, how much fun would you have living that way? Right? It's like you've already know what's going to happen by the end of the day. So why bother going through the day if you know how the day is going to go? Kind of why, and I don't know if you ever watch movies that are reruns where you know what's going to happen. There are only a few movies that I watch multiple times because they're just, great stories. But most of the time, once I know what's going to happen, the movie becomes less interesting and it's not as exciting anymore. So what I'm saying here is that in this Q4 way of living, we're no longer trying to chase an outcome that we think we want, but instead we are actually creating for ourselves games and scenarios where we 100% know for sure that all amazing good stuff is going to happen that is going to serve us. And yet we specifically design into our days these moments of mystery and unexpected occurrences, surprise guests, surprise revelations, both in the external world and something about ourselves that we get to see that we have not seen before. And this is what makes the day worth living, or makes it more exciting to wake up in the morning. Ooh, I'm excited to see how the day's going to unfold. And then we just watch what comes, both with an intention and a desire of it going a certain way, yet at the same time, very open to how it opens up. And whatever comes our way, we know that it's actually happening for even better than we could have imagined. Right. So I am doing this comparison between the Q1, where there's like achievement focused, manifestation focused, desire or want or need to get something in order for me to be happy, while operating from this limited box of the way we see ourselves and others. And we're dealing with limited amount of time and finances and rules and expectations, etc. And that is one way to play the game, right? A lot of people, especially those who are playing the startup and being a founder of a company, these are the rules that we play with. Where, okay, I don't know where the idea is going to come from. I don't know how we're going to fit into the market. I don't know where the money is going to go. Oh my God, we only have 2 weeks of cash flow left before we have to close our doors or fire somebody. And this is an exciting place to be. Whether you believe it or not, you're having those types of experiences and uncertainties because this is, in a way, the game that you want to play right now. Yet also at the same time, that similar experience in Q4, that really I'm calling the expression from wholeness. It's the creativity, it's the creation of our life and our days. Even if you still decide to run a company from the place of Q4, that looks like, oh my God, what is the most exciting company, industry, service that I want to provide? What is the most exciting role that I want to be operating in with that, right? Do I want to have the responsibility for making all the decisions, kind of being the CEO? Do I want to simply be in a leadership managerial role, leading other wonderful minds to help me both promote this, whatever product or service that we're selling to others, and at the same time also creating a either a new development in technology, or maybe you simply want to serve others through whatever services that are available, right? What comes to mind is like cleaning services for houses or commercial. Maybe it's the hospitality that you want to run an amazing retreat, or maybe a hotel or something where people come to experience the amazing environments that you create for them. At that point, you're no longer trying to run and create a company in order to sell, make big bucks, in order to get the financial freedom and then get the heck out of the job you actually don't like doing, don't want to be doing. Instead, you're running it because you love doing it. And as a result, there might still be the same external circumstance of there might be only 2 weeks of cash left while you're operating. It might still be the same experience. And yet, the way you see it, the way you perceive it, is as part of curious excitement of, wow, I know that this is all happening for the best. And I'm excited to see how this is going to unfold. You're no longer nervous about the failure that may happen. And you're no longer frantically making calls and trying to pitch your company to get investors, etc. But instead, you're operating from a place of complete trust. I don't want to say surrender here, but complete trust and creativity that you know things are gonna come to you, both from external circumstance and ideas and resources that are going to help you in this regard. Right. And now this game of running a business from the Q4 place becomes a really fun experience where it's just, you can call it playing a game in God mode, playing the game with cheat codes on, where at any time something happens, you get to simply shift out of it and get the exact thing that you need in the perfect time at the perfect place, because that's how life could really work once you're outside of this limitation box that, in a way, the higher you put yourself in from the beginning, simply just because it wanted to have the experience you've had so far. Whether that can make sense or no right now. Right. So this is the huge comparison between the Q1 and Q4. Now, in order to go from Q1 to Q4, right, a lot of people teaching, a lot of manifestation teachers, they're also teaching the Q4 practices, techniques, and ways to manifest. I'm doing air quotes around manifestation in order to create the reality that you want to be living in. They're teaching Q4 principles to people who are still in the Q1 level of awareness, of consciousness, of seeing who they are, of having the insecurities, having fears, that they're simply not yet ready for this Q4 type of conversation. And this is what has been happening with me. And as I was going through this process of both uncovering and discovering everything that, all the limitations that have been placed on me, I also went back to see, well, why aren't the principles that are based in the Q4 way of living, where everything is abundant and free, and you have total and complete control of how your life goes, why doesn't that work for the person who's living from the Q1 space? And this is where both the Q2 and Q3 that are the bottom two quadrants, and in a way, this creates a U shape, right? Q2 is the bottom left, Q3 is the bottom right. We have this U shape where the way out of the situation that you're living right now, if you're kind of relating to the Q1 approach, you can't just jump through from Q1 to Q4 right away. You have to go through this process in a way. And yes, in quantum mechanics, quantum physics world, it is possible, everything is possible. And yet, from my practical understanding of how the human-minded system works, there are certain energies at play, certain laws, maybe perhaps in that regard, that the mind is not yet ready to jump directly from Q1 to Q4. There, it needs like an up-leveling process, so to say. And so, what is that process? So the jump from Q1 to Q2 is actually the most important step that I find that many people are reluctant to go into, because there is a gateway, and kind of from religious type of references, kind of there's that gateway. I call it the gateway into the purgatory. These are it's the firewall. It's the door that is covered with spider webs and fire and the most scary looking things. And it's essentially all of the fears that we have grown into for our whole lives, all of the deepest stuff, including things like being abandoned, being left alone, including things like dying, including things like running out of money, and everything else that may show up for you. And the only way to enter through that door is to stop running away from the fears, but start looking into them, or maybe begin to even just understand the idea that the next steps are to deal with the fears directly and to look at them directly. And why was this designed this way? Was because in a way, your soul, your higher self, your bigger self, the bigger you, wanted to experience this limitation, being in this box of living life from it, and it wanted to have that experience. Because if you easily could go from Q1 to Q4, right, from Q1 to 3, 4, right away, like you just escaped the box and now you're living in all of the abundance and love and excitement and everything else. But that wasn't the design. The design was to actually experience life how it could be lived from the amazing limitations that we've placed on ourselves. And the only way to keep ourselves from those, from jumping out of the box, from escaping from limitation, is to add this scariest thing, that is fear. And so in order to start escaping from Q1 to Q2, we got to look at the fears. And not in a way how high performance industry is teaching, where feel the fear and do it anyway. Not in a way of feeling this internal agitation so much that there creates like an illusion of fearlessness, where you are in a way pooping your pants and you're doing the action. I'm not talking about that kind of fearlessness where you just fight through it. I'm talking about honest, honorable, vulnerable desire to look at what is missing and what do you think is the worst thing that may happen, right? Because that would be the first and only way to go through that. And so that, most of the time, the thing that we are afraid the most is nothing more than an energy or an emotion that we feel in the body, right? Because we can take anything that happens in the world, the worst case scenarios of our loved ones passing away, ourselves dying, the worst wars happening, the worst case scenarios happening. That stuff is happening on the outside, but the thing that we fear the most is, how's that thing going to make me feel inside? And that stuff I don't want to feel, because it doesn't feel pleasant in the body, and because of all of the training conditioning that we received, that feeling any type of unpleasantness is actually very threatening to our own survival. It is simply the same as touching a hot stove when you're a little child, learning that it hurts, learning that it is dangerous to put a finger on a hot stove. Same thing, we learn that it's dangerous to feel angry, sad, depressed, all of those wonderful negative things that we don't want to feel. And so this is the Q2 work. In order to get from Q1 to Q4, we have to go through the Q2. And Q2 is feeling all of the stuff that we haven't felt before and learning how to process the energy that is happening inside of us. This is the energy that is here to really help navigate us to the correct direction that we now want to go into, right? So the way the higher self, the higher mind, the soul, whatever the name we want to use, the way that thing communicates with our physical mind is actually through energetic vibration that simply gets translated in the body. So in a way, the bad experiences that you feel inside the body is what your higher you, the bigger you, is trying to communicate to you. Hey, it's time to look at this situation differently. It's time to make a change. It's time to walk a different path. And these negative emotions are nothing more than a communication and a redirection device from sort of the higher you, the soul, the whatever the name is, that has a plan for where your life is going. And instead, in the Q1, we're trying to escape that pain. We're trying to escape all of those feelings and sensations, all the fears, vulnerabilities, and everything else. We try to cover them up with external achievements, external niceties, or if that's a word. Being nice to other people, pleasing other people, so that we don't get into a conflict resolution. We don't get into conflict situations. When in fact, the higher you, the bigger you, the bigger mind actually wants you to experience those sensations in order to give you communication, in order to provide a new direction, some new way of seeing yourself, seeing others. And so in Q1, we're escaping the exact thing, direction communication, that is trying to help guide us in the right direction. Right? So Q2 is all about beginning to shift the way our body processes the negative emotions. And I'm doing air quotes about negative emotion because really I call it's slower and lower energies and frequencies. It's the mind that puts the filter that, right now I'm feeling anger, when in fact it's nothing more than just a more higher frequency, higher amplitude of energetic expression inside the body. Right? I feel tingling. And yet when the mind puts these words is when they become fearful. So in Q2, we transform this relationship to the negative emotions. We befriend them, we become friends, and we start listening to this direction, right? Where we are getting guidance from our, in a way, higher, bigger realms, where to go next. That is why it is hard, to next to impossible, to jump from Q1 to Q4. Even though, when people who are already at Q4 and they say, well, you can manifest whatever you want, just think and it may happen. Not being able to listen to these negative emotions that are really a communication or redirection device, we're simply not going to hear the guidance that we're actually receiving all the time. So in Q2, we're learning that, how to deal with the emotions. And then once we're through that, we are also need to now go into Q3. So Q2 is in a way our internal process of how we experience reality. In Q3, now we get to master being able to receive and allow any type of external circumstance for it to happen. We learn to allow anything to happen. Because if we do not, which most of the people, we have been conditioned to resist certain things from happening. We have been conditioned to not allow to be in control of whatever happens. Right? And I'm talking examples like, I don't want to be fired. I don't want to sell my home and move. I don't want to end my relationship. I don't want to start my relationship. I don't want to commit, etc., etc. Whatever those circumstances are. What happens when we resist certain change in the external circumstance happening, or when we attach to a certain comfortable position or situation that we've had for a long time? This prevents this bigger plan that is outside of the box view of the limitations. It prevents that plan from coming together and, in a way, showing itself in reality, because many times it is through the negative circumstance that new things open up for people. And this is when we wake up, it's like, oh my God, it's time for change, right? I've been going for that job for the last 10, 20 years. I know I hated it, but it was comfortable, it was paying the bills, and I didn't know how to get out of it. And yet, all of a sudden, I get fired. Or the business that used to run along, something changes in the industry, new competitor comes in, and I'm no longer able to afford to pay my employees, or new innovation comes in, like AI is taking our jobs. When that initially perceived bad stuff happens, we used to think that it was bad, and we tried to prevent it from happening. And in a way, in Q3, we're learning to see that anything that happens in the external circumstance is actually happening for our best and better situation to come forward. Right? In that way, ooh, I got into an accident. Interesting. What is it here to tell me? Ooh, my relationship ended in a very nasty way. Interesting. What do I need to do here? My job ended. Interesting. What do I do here? Because it's these major life experiences, circumstances, is what is going to start to open your eyes up to new opportunities, right? Maybe you needed to move to a different country, but you wouldn't have moved if everything was happening and humming along as it has for the last 10, 20 years. Maybe, and I'm talking kind of, we can talk the big scenario. So we can talk about the little things like you wanted to send an email, but then somebody called you and you got side swiped to onto something else, and then you forgot to send that email, right? We could be beating ourselves up. It's like, oh my God, that is the email I wanted to send to this investor. This is my opportunity of a lifetime. And yet in Q3, we're learning to accept, allow, surrender, and flow with any situation that comes up because, well, you weren't supposed to send that email at that point in time because, and the funny thing is we find the because only after something happens. Maybe that investor that you wanted to send something, they weren't in a good mood that day. And instead, they needed to wait to receive your email 2 weeks later, at which point in time you remember that you needed to send it. And at that point, they have dealt with all of the emergencies on their end. They became more open now to see more opportunities. And all of a sudden, here comes your email that says, hey, I have an exciting project. Would you like to participate in it? Because if you sent it 2 weeks prior, they wouldn't be in a position to, I wouldn't have the attention focus to look for those types of opportunities, and your email would have simply gotten lost, not being paid attention to. So in Q3, we'll learn that anything that happens in the world is actually the best thing that could ever happen. And we do that, of course, with understanding, deeper understanding of who we are, how life works, what trust is, what is authenticity to you, and what is authentic to you. And of course, rather than trying to control the circumstance and how life happens, we get to direct it, we get to create how we desire it to be, and also staying open and curious to see what shows up, because many times what we intend or what our mind can only imagine is actually a small percentage, small portion of what is actually is being set up ahead for us. So these two, Q2 and Q3, Q2, learning to deal, learning to process, relearning to allow the nervous system to regulate the energy that is supposed to move through the body, that we are simply sensing from the outside. Q2, we are processing the internal experience of whatever shows up. And in Q3, we are learning to accept any and all circumstance that happens. Because when we do that, we're no longer stopped by the fear of failure. We're no longer stopped by the fear of judgment. We know that if this project doesn't succeed, that means it's leading me to something else. We know that if I get judged for whatever the thing is, then we go back to Q2. I'm going to feel all the feels that I need to be felt. From there, I will learn something about myself or the way I saw other people or the way I've been trying to communicate. And kind of we swirl in this Q2, Q3 for a while where the circumstance is teaching us, and in Q2, our internal emotional experience of how the life is unfolding, it is redirecting us. It is taking us to look deeper into our belief systems. And we kind of bounce back and forth in this Q2, Q3 before we finally get to emerge into Q4, which is creating reality as we desire it to be. And in a way, the way that process works is we simply look at what is the most exciting thing to create next. And now that with Q3, we are no longer attaching to any particular plans going the way we plan them. We're no longer attached to the outcome being the outcome that we want. We're no longer actually attaching the outcome of, running $1 million business or even 7-figure business just to please my ego and just to feel enough. We're going to go for that project just for the sheer excitement of what's going to unfold. And at the same time, we are so comfortable in being able to process our internal emotional world of anger, frustration, disappointment, resentment, all of this stuff, that it is no longer blocking the mind not to proceed with a certain set of action just to escape feeling those things, because we know that when those things come up, it will simply be a signal from our higher being that there's a different way, that different path that we can take, maybe a different approach, maybe a different view of the situation. And so in Q4, we just go after the projects that we want to create from the sheer excitement of them. And we know that sometimes the vision that we get of an exciting project has nothing more to do with the actual creation of the project, but to help raise us to a certain level of excitement vibration to then match us to the next version of the vision that we want to create. Let me say that again. Sometimes when we're feeling low, when we're not sure what to do next, when we are not happy with where life is, we're vibrating at a level that is invisible to the actual vision that may come to us in the future. When you're feeling low, you're simply, the way your mind operates, the way your energy body operates, the frequency of that existence is not a match to the new ideas that are waiting for you. So in order for you to get ideas, in order for you to get a vision of what the next steps, in order for you to see what's next, we need to help you and your system elevate the level of vibration, level of excitement, to the point when that next step becomes a match to your vibration. In a way, we're tuning the radio channel to the next step, right? And a lot of people, especially with my human design conversations, a lot of people have a lot of frustration with waiting or patience. And that's the thing, that when you're waiting and patient and you're frustrated about it, right? The frustration with the waiting and patience is what actually drops you in the frequency. It drops the radio signal channel to an empty buzz where it's like, there's just noise. There's no vision, there's no clarity, there's nothing, because you're frustrated. You want to get to the channel of, knowing what's next and knowing who you are and what your life is about, but you can't because you're frustrated with the waiting. And so the thing to do when you're in this waiting period, when you're in this level of plateau in a way, waiting for that next step to come in, the main thing to focus on is, we're going back to Q2 and Q3, where we help you to deal with the frustration as it is, understand what's actually happening with it, what it is here to communicate to you, how you're looking at the situation, maybe not in the most serving of ways. One is an example that the more you accept the waiting and the patience, the higher your vibration is going to rise, the quicker you're going to match that radio signal to the next step that you want to get through. And using Q3, you're okay with whatever opens up. You're not attached to any outcome, and kind of bring everything together in Q4. You get to simply experience life like it's a movie. And then not just a movie that you just pay to go watch, but it's a movie that you get to write and direct and love watching, with the same anticipation that you have when you're reading your most favorite novel, when you're watching your most favorite genre of the movie. And you get to build in these Easter eggs and surprises along the way that you would never have expected, because that's the most cool thing to see. It's like, oh my God, I would never have imagined that things could open up this way. So hopefully this describes the blueprint, the powerful creator blueprint, how to go from the achiever manifestor type of energy when we're trying to escape from our current reality, the way we feel, trying to create something just to feel better about it, trying to, be in this never-ending chase of changing, improving. We get to go through the Q2 of mastering the way you feel, and Q3 accepting all of the circumstances, in order to get to the Q4, where you simply are and actually get to decide and choose in each and every moment who you are, who you want to be, how you want to serve, what you want to experience, And as a result, simply get to enjoy the journey, both as the writer, as the actor, and as the audience who is here to watch this amazing show of what human experience is, of what the next few years are going to show for us. And in the meantime, hopefully you are having an easier time if you're just going through the Q2 and Q3, where some of the painful, more painful moments that the mind still may consider that those are difficult and challenging times to go through. So I wish you to go through those moments with the most ease and effortlessness. And even though it's going to be challenging, to actually enjoy the fruits of that challenge, enjoy the journey, because this is what you're here for. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them my way. You can find me on Instagram, Powerful Creator. Or if you're ready to jump in and get assistance with this journey, kind of the key intricate parts here is to look at all kinds of these conditioned beliefs or views of yourself and the world, and the rules of the game that both have been set up for you and that you have set up for yourself. And I love digging into these because that's where the really gold is. Once we identify what the belief is, then you have a more conscious choice in where you want to take your life next. Because before that, it's just discipline and fighting. And when really it's just fighting another part of you that doesn't want to change just yet. And it's just a cycle of, wanting to change and improve. And instead, we can jump into the Q4 level of living, of being in your excitement all of the time, being the creator of your reality, and simply observing everything that is happening as if like it's the best movie you've ever seen. Because that's what we're here for, to get entertained, to entertain, to express, to watch others express, and to be seen. And so thank you for joining the conversation today. I'm really excited that this blueprint is now in the world. It's going to help a lot of souls. And I'm excited to share my own experience that I needed to go through the same blueprint exactly over the last couple of years. And I'm excited to share that experience with you. So until we speak next time.